Hello, my name is Jason Webster. I'm lead commercial agronomist and I manage the PTI Farm for Precision Planting. Thank you for coming to Winter Conference. How's your day been so far? We've had a great day so far, haven't we? Thank you again for coming. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share some lessons that we've learned from the PTI Farm, the Precision Technology Institute. And I guess before I get too involved with this, I know the PTI Farm is still fairly new. We've been around for 4 years. Some of you have had the opportunity to come visit us at the PTI Farm, and we've really enjoyed hosting you at the farm. We thank you for coming. Others may not know what the PTI Farm is, so I just want to take a brief moment and talk about what the PTI Farm is, what we do at this farm. The PTI Farm is located in Pontiac, Illinois, about 60 miles that way, okay, north and east of here. And at this farm, 400 acres of on-farm research. We're challenging the status quo. We're taking things that we've done for years, decades, and we're comparing it to new ways of doing things to see if we can improve profitability and increase yield. This year we had over 160 agronomy trials on this farm, and just a tremendous amount of information. Okay, and I want to show you, I want to take you to the farm. I want to take you via Google Earth to the PTI Farm. Again, in Pontiac, Illinois, we're right along Interstate 55. We're 100 miles south of Chicago. And along I-55, the last survey that was done, they tell me that 25,000 cars come by our farm every single day. And when they drive by our farm or they pull into the farm, they see the agronomy trials that we're working on. And it's just Agronomy 101. We share the products and technology that we have at Precision Planting. We talk about fertility. We talk about basically every decision a grower has to make on their farm, we're testing it at the PTI Farm. That's our goal. It's a tremendous opportunity to get growers from across the country to come and visit us. That's what we do. During the months of July, August, and September, we invite 100 growers a day. We have field days, Monday through Friday, every day, with 100 growers. And we just simply have a conversation. When you come to the farm, we split you up into 3 sessions. One of the sessions hosted by our regional sales managers, and they do a whale of a job in this study. They get their boots dirty, their hands dirty. We've got a planter row unit out in the field, just bare soil. And we say, let's make that planter dance. How do we create the perfect furrow? You see, it doesn't matter what color a planter you have. It doesn't matter how many rows that planter is. We're all creating a furrow, and we want to do it perfectly. But what happens if we're not doing it right? That's where our team of regional sales managers show us what's wrong, how do we fix it, and more importantly, how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? This is a great session, very educational, and a lot of fun. Secondly, we go on an agronomy tour. We've got over 400 acres, and get this, it's a 2.5-hour agronomy tour, and we don't get through the whole farm in 2.5 hours. Why? Because it's a conversation. Your farm is different than my farm, and it's different than your farm. And we tell you what we're working on, we show you the objectives, we show you the conclusions we've received over the last few years, and then we say, what do you guys think? And that conversation is different every single day because your farms are different. Now, one of the things that I think makes us unique at the PTI Farm is the ability to have a sandbox at our farm. We affectionately call it the sandbox. It's a ride and drive area. Ever since I was a kid growing up watching Dad and Grandpa farm, I saw them buying equipment. And I said, well, it seems kind of difficult to me that you have to go buy a piece of equipment to figure out if you like it. It's going to be a good fit for your farm. It's PTI Farm. We have an area of the farm that we don't plant in the spring, and I save it for you. When you come visit us in July, August, and September, weather permitting, we're going to plant corn. I'm going to take you out in the agronomy trials, and I'm going to show you the technology we're using. But then I'm going to give you the keys. Our product support team hosts this session. They're going to give you the keys to this equipment and say, here, you go plant and experience the technology, experience the products that we have, and you can compare it to what you have on your farm. That's what we've been waiting for at a research farm. Brings the whole thing together, and it's an experience. I want to take you to the PTI Farm again, and I want to show you the sandbox and how some growers have participated in planting corn every day at the PTI Farm. You know, I mentioned earlier at the PTI Farm, we're all about challenging the status quo, but it's believing that we can be better, and that's what we're doing. We're just showing the options that are available for growers, how they work, what problems are in the field, and what solutions we have to take care of those problems. All right, that's in a nutshell what the PTI Farm is. Let's dive in and talk about some lessons that we learned from the growing season of 2021. And I want to start with high yield. One of the fun things that we get to do at the PTI Farm is try to grow high-yielding corn, soybeans for that matter too, but let's focus on corn first. We have a high management study that we work at the PTI Farm where we're really trying to understand, if I can push the limits of corn, what can it reward me with? How can I increase yield, but at the same time increase profitability? That's our focus on these high management trials. Now, a year ago, 2020, I thought was a really good growing season, and it was our third year at the farm. We grew 368 bushel corn. It is the highest yield we've achieved at the PTI Farm, 368. So we come into 2021 ripping and roaring, ready to break that record in 2021, and we fell short of that goal. Okay, 357.9 was our highest yield. You can see some different hybrids we've got in some of our high management trials. You can see the yields of these particular hybrids. But again, we're trying to push yields and understand what does that crop need and what can it reward us with in the form of bushels and profits. And one of the things that I think about, and we have a goal for kind of yield divided by seeding rate. I want that number to be 10. Think about this, 360 bushel corn divided by 36,000 seeds per acre. You know, that's 10. You could look at it 40,000 or 400 bushel corn divided by 40. And it'd be that same 10, but that's the number we're looking at for a goal. I don't know what that goal is or what that number is on your farm, but that's what we look at each and every year for our high management studies. We fell short just a little bit, but you can see where our number's at, especially the high number there of 9 3/4. Look at the yield history of corn in our high management studies. Since we started that first year in 2018, no tile on the farm. We were trying to understand what the fertility is on the farm, what the drainage situation was. We definitely didn't have irrigation at that time. We're growing 272 bushel corn. 2019 rolls around. If you guys remember that year, that was the prevent plant year. A lot of the corn got planted the first week of June. We still were able to get a little bit higher in corn yield at 280 plus. And you can definitely tell that next year when we started installing some of our drainage and some of our irrigation on the farm, because that's when yields just escalated, again, over 360 bushel. This year, as I mentioned, in 2021, over 357. Now, we're out harvesting this fall, and a grower sends me a text message. And I thought about this text message a lot. Matter of fact, the grower's here in the audience today. I just talked to him a little bit ago. He sent me a text message and he says, high-yielding crops is not rocket science. And when you guys think of rocket science, you think of difficult things, hard things, right? When I interviewed here at Precision Planting 5 years ago, the folks at Precision Planting said, we do hard things, we do difficult things. And I would agree with that. But this grower said, high-yielding crops is not rocket science, it's just a few management tweaks and attention to detail. And he's been at the PTI Farm the last 4 years and taking some of those things to his farm. And I texted him back and I said, what kind of yields are you getting on your farm? He's from Wisconsin. He said, county average is about 150 bushel corn and I'm growing 300 bushel corn. That's what it's all about. Yes, we need the right rainfall, okay? But it's the attention to detail and just a few management tweaks and we can grow high yielding crops. There's no doubt about that. Now, I would agree some things are difficult, and I want to share some things that I think are difficult at the PTI Farm, and then we'll get into some things that are easier that everybody can take advantage of. Drainage tile, I mentioned that earlier. One of the keys to success in high-yielding corn in 2021 was drainage. We had some heavy rainfall events that we needed to get drainage taken care of. Here on the screen, you can see 15-foot pattern tile width compared to 30s. And we're trying to do some things other than just getting water away. We're also trying to backfeed water into sub-irrigate. That's why we're going down to 15-foot pattern tile. I mentioned the heavy rain events. Every time we looked at the radar, it just seemed like we had heavy rain event after another. And this is where we needed the tile to get rid of the excess water and bring that oxygen back into the soil profile to help keep this corn going, not slow it down. We had 3 significant rain events, all of them over 5 inches, one of them over 6 inches of rain, and this is where the tile really went to work for us, okay? And the tile was very important because on our farm, we're using tile to get water away when we have saturated soils, but we're keeping that water to turn around and irrigate with. I'll show you that here in a second. Look at the tile results on the farm. You know, this was a really wet farm. We're still trying to understand what kind of soils we're dealing with at PTI, but I know this, with the soils we have, we need tile, we need drainage, and you can see the yield results on the screen right now. 20 bushel yield responses when we start looking at 60-foot tile, and then it just keeps going up, and you can see we were over 300 bushel per acre on some of these tile patterns. 2 years data would say we're over 30 bushel yield response on average from having tile. So it's so important in some of our high management trials. I want to go back to this area, the 15-foot versus 30-foot. This has been difficult because we're trying to manipulate the water table. I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but I will tell you, this is hard. I don't know how to do this. We're putting tile in. We're using it to get water away when we're wet, but then when we're hot and dry, we're bringing the water back in, and we're manipulating that water table, trying to bring it up to feed the crop. Trying to understand how this works. Right now, I don't know how to do it. We're learning as we go, but it's part of what we talk about and what we show people every day at the PTI farm. The tile that we put in, it gives us the drainage ability, takes the water away, introduces oxygen into the soil profile, but where does the water go? The tile outlets that you have on your farm, it outlets to a creek or to a river or what have you. On our farm at the PTI, it deposits into a reservoir, and we hold on to that water for dear life. We don't let it go. Because, ladies and gentlemen, at this PTI farm, we recycle rainwater. So get this, it's gonna rain, rain goes down through the soil profile, hits the tile is on grade, it takes the water away and deposits it right into this reservoir. We hold it, we turn around, pump this water out, and we irrigate our crops. It's part of a farm sustainability project at the PTI farm. This is what the most unprofitable acre looked like at PTI after the first year we started farming it. We're buying seed, we're buying fertilizer, we're putting herbicide on this, but we're not growing a crop because it's the lowest elevation area of the farm. And I said, we gotta fix this, we gotta be smarter. So we just made this area bigger and created a reservoir. That lowest elevation, we made it a little bigger, a little deeper, and this is where we hold more water as part of our sustainability project. The water's gonna come from the tile, like I mentioned, and so now we can come in trial by trial and figure out what kind of drainage do we need. Let's study the economics of putting different pattern width of tile in and really understand what is the return on investment of this, and again, try to figure out how can we push yields even more. We are irrigating. The irrigation, we are kind of a glutton for punishment at the PTI farm because we do this manually. We lay it on top of the ground, this drip tape, so you guys can see the design of it, see how it works. You can pick it up, see water dripping from it, and you can see the fertility program that we have in this as well with our fertigating. Look at the yield response of, I'll say, not only irrigating, but fertigating. So this is a big part of our nutrition program at the farm. It's just a little bit of spoon feeding every single day. And look at the yield responses. Last year, over 105 bushel yield responses from being able to irrigate and fertigate our crop. Just tremendous, having a tremendous opportunity to have the ability to have that control. There is some work though, there's difficult. I've got to screen the water, I've got to filter it, but I will tell you, I've got a fertigation system where every trial we can make a recipe up. We can soil test, we can tissue test, we can sap test, we can say, what does this corn, what does this soybean plant need today? And as we're watering it, we can meter in the right amount of nutrition. It is just unbelievable. I can't tell you how much it's taught our team how to manage some of these trials. When you come to PTI, you'll see our pump house. We've got these small little totes, and they're all set up with these little recipes that we're trying to feed our crops with and trying to push and just make sure, is there a chink in the armor? Can we fix it and fill it with our irrigation and fertigation program? Some other things we've been working on that I think was difficult in the beginning was trying to understand how can we bring more technology in to manage crops in season. It's been one of those things. I know we can't listen to this corn and have it tell me what it needs today. And so we need to do a better job of that. We're getting there with technology, but once we know what it needs, we need to come in and make applications. And this year I mentioned the heavy rain events. Some of those rain events came right at pollination time in corn. We've got a Hagee sprayer. I said, let's get that Hagee out. I just got 6 inches of rain. How far do you think that Hagee's gonna go before we get stuck? Not very far. I called the airport. I said, bring one of them crop dusters out. We're gonna spray some corn for leaf diseases today. They said, well, we can come out, but in 2 weeks. Everybody was spraying for leaf disease, and we just couldn't get a crop duster at the farm. We partnered with Rantizo with a spray UAV. I don't know how many of you folks have used one of these, but I said this all summer, and I'll say it again today. This was an absolute agronomist dream, being able to use this aerially 8 to 10 feet above the crop canopy, spraying crop nutrition, spraying fungicides for leaf disease, and especially with tar spot this year, it was very critical to make timely applications, sequential applications as well. And this worked fantastic. I'll show you a little video. We're loading up on this UAV and going out and spraying some fungicide. Excellent technology, but again, difficult to understand how this works and then implement it in the field. Those are hard things. What about easy things? This is what I want to focus on today, is what can you do on your farm, some easier things to go home, drive yields higher, and drive profitability higher. Uniform even emergence. Some of you are going to laugh at this. You can say, wait a minute, I came to Winter Conference to hear about uniform even emergence. Precision Planning's been talking about this for years. Yeah, we have. But how do you do it? How do you achieve it? Are you getting that on your farm? So how do you get every seed the same environment to achieve uniform emergence? That's what we're focusing on every year. And I'll tell you from some of our high management trials, if we can't get uniform even emergence, we're not going to get high yield. We will get average yield. This furrow right here, look at those seeds in that furrow. How do we give it the same resistance on top of every seed so that as that kernel tries to fight its way up to the soil surface, that resistance is the same? If you can do that, chances are your corn's going to come up at the same time. We don't want late emergers. We know late emergers cost us yield. I want to know how much that cost is, and I'd also like to know how often is it happening in the field each and every spring. And so what we have at the PTI farm is a race to 12-hour emergence. From the first time that first seedling pokes its head up out of the ground, our team is right there flagging it. You've heard about that today, our flag testing program. We're out there every 12 hours flagging plants. You can see on the screen 12, 24, 36, 48, 48 hours plus, every 12 hours putting flags in and monitoring late emergers. We'd like to think that the 12-hour baseline is the best we can do right now. Okay, from the first time that seedling pops its head up, all its neighbors are up in that 12-hour time frame. Again, the flag testing kits, these are free. I don't know how many of you folks have ever done it, but I want you to do it this spring. You can go to the website, you can see the address on the screen. Go and order your own free kit. And this spring, monitor the emergence on your farm and understand how many late emergers you have, and then we got to figure out why that's happening. That's what we're doing. You see these flags up here. Get this, if all the corn's coming up at the same time, when we go out and flag it, all of these flags should be the same color. Does that look like the same color to you on the screens? No, we have late emergers, and we've got to figure out why this is happening. One of the things that I think is the easiest way to get even emergence is your closing system. Think about that furrow and that seed in the trench and making the same resistance on top of that seed. That's what a closing system can do for us, and it can give us more uniform emergence. We're looking at FurrowForce for this, a 2-stage automatic system. You know, that true V we're creating with our openers. Okay, as we plant, we want to blow those sidewalls out of there, and we want to push the air pocket out. So 2 things a closing system needs to do for me. But manual static settings with closing systems in the past haven't been able to do that for us. There's that true V, those red lines. That's a soil density area from your openers, and we need to remove those. That V should be gone after you make the planter pass. And then look at that, inside that red circle right there around the seed, that's an air pocket. That seed is not attached to water. It's not next to soil, and it will not imbibe water out of the soil to get it to emerge. It's going to be a late emerger, and that's going to cost us. So we're looking at FurrowForce in the field, doing these flag testing situations every single spring, and I want to show you some of the results. Now, I mentioned earlier, 12 hours is where I want to be. I want to reside. That's my home. I want 12-hour emergence. Last year, we had 66% of our plants, in fact, come up at the 12-hour time frame, the first 12-hour interval. And I said, okay, what's left? We had about 1/3 of our plants coming up 12 hours later. Okay, at the 24-hour time frame, and then 36 hours we're at 4%, and then as we went later, very few numbers, which shows me we were doing a pretty decent job preventing some of these late emergers from happening. Now I've got the ear board up here. You can see it on the screen, and you can see it right up here on stage. And we went and we collected ears. Now we've already got them flagged, and we follow them throughout the growing season, and then we said, let's take them to yield. So we bring these ears in, we weigh them, we take moisture on it, and we get a yield. And what we found this year was we get a 12-hour delay in emergence. We're sitting at 24 hours now. It's a 6% yield loss. You may not think that's a lot, but that adds up very, very quickly. And I'll tell you why, because this is the highest occurrence value. I'll talk about that more here in a second. We get a 12-hour delay again. Now we're at 36 hours. That's a 22% yield loss. We take it even further, another 12 hours to 48, and we're at 78% yield loss. And those I just don't think are acceptable. Now, this looks pretty severe of a yield penalty, and it is when you get them. But occurrence factor-wise, this year, we had very few of these, fortunately. If I look at the 12-hour emergence, though, that we're looking for, and I compare all of the closing systems that we tested this past year, FurrowForce got me 85% 12-hour emergence, 85%. All other closing systems never hit 70%. It's all about soil density and that resistance above the seed. FurrowForce was doing a better job, and we got plants up faster, and they were more even. Dollars per acre, I guess it's our job at the PTI Farm to figure out, what is the difference in return? In this past year, in our studies would say the two-stage automatic closing system in FurrowForce was a $22 per acre advantage over our manual static systems. Let's go back to the 12-hour delayers, the guys that came up just 12 hours late. That's these guys right here. They are the highest population, okay? I'm saying the 12 hours is the best we can do today, so these guys are what I want to go and attack. And I'll ask you on your farm, how can you improve emergence just by 12 hours? In other words, how do we take these guys and move them up to here? How are you going to do that on your farm? Hopefully you're going to find this out when you flag test here this next spring. This is my largest dollar per acre loss just because there's so many of these happening. It's about a third of the plants here in this environment. And so the more ears we have, even at the 6%, it's a loss of $20 an acre, $19.99 to be exact. That's what we're trying to eliminate. Tillage is interesting to me. Sometimes when I see closing results, it only shows me one environment, and I don't know that means very much to me. And so at the PTI Farm, we're testing conventional tillage, vertical tillage, strip till. We try to test all the major conventional systems, and then we put closing systems in those environments to see how they react. And 2 years ago, our stress environments like no-till, that's where we saw the biggest response from FurrowForce. We're testing conventional tillage. We're making the soil black. I don't know that this is my favorite tillage program, but there's a lot of people doing this. And so we need to understand, when I do this type of tillage, and I level those stalks after this fall tillage in the spring and plant into it, what's my closing system? How is it going to react? And then we go to what my favorite really is at the farm. It's strip till. Here we're in standing corn stalks, coming in and making strips in the fall, putting fertility in these bands. We really like it for that reason too. But what is it going to take when we put a planter on top of these strips? How's that closing system going to be affected here? And then we reduce even more. Here's vertical tillage. Look at this, addressing residue, the top 1 to 2 inches. Now it gets a little, we've got more residue at the soil surface. How, again, is that closing system going to react? Lastly, no-till. And we're trying to get no-till to work. And we're studying, what do we need to do to get set up for no-till to be correct? But you all know, for those of you who've no-tilled, one of the biggest challenges with no-till is closing the slot. And that's where FurrowForce has done a really nice job for us in tougher conditions. I'll show you 2021 data. Look at the no-till and the vertical till. That's where we just saw the whole system excel. Gave us our highest returns. Why? Because it was the toughest to do it. And manual static settings just couldn't get the job done in those stress conditions. As it got easier to do it, the yield increase was less. Look at the dollars per acre. We're looking at $60 to $80 here. I'm showing you a plus side right here because it's FurrowForce. But what if you don't have a two-stage automated system that can adjust for you, can measure, sense, and react? You're losing these dollars per acre. And I just don't think this is acceptable right now with the technology we have for the farm. Here's a little video of FurrowForce working. Look at the first stage there, just going after those sidewalls, blowing those sidewalls out, eliminating that density, and then the small wheel in the back, pushing that air pocket out. Two things we want a closing system to do for us. We're sensing, we're measuring, and we're reacting. So, in summary of closing, I'll say this. How can we give every seed the same environment to achieve uniform emergence? Give every seed the same resistance and the soil density. That's that area above the seed. If we can get it the same, chances are the seed will come up at the same time. All right, let's change gears, talk a little bit about nutrient management. We all got to feed our crop, okay, to get high yields. I want to start off with conceal. Planter applied nutrients is a staple at our farm. It's just part of the program because we've seen what kind of yields we can get with this type of fertility program. There's my planter at the farm. It's me in the cab. We're planting away, and we've got liquid tanks on the planter, and we're continuing to band. Now remember, the first band I have on the farm was from my strip till I showed you earlier. That's going to be a dry band. Now we're coming in with multiple bands here with conceal. Okay, I'll show you a little close-up picture of this. We're going to existing real estate on the planter inside the gauge wheels. You can go single band or dual band. This is showing you dual band. We're going to spin this thing around and show you the blue lines. The blue lines are going to be application or placement of products like nitrogen, potassium, sulfur, boron. Those are the nutrients that we're going after. And notice where those blue lines are at. It's outside of the furrow. The nutrients we're putting here are too salty and they can't go there. We're going to get crop injury. This is perfect placement for, again, nitrogen, sulfur, boron, and potassium. Look at the root system of this corn plant. Conceal, I think of it as luxury consumption. It's not that we're putting on more fertilizer. In many cases, we're putting on less. But look where that placement is. As that crown root of the corn plant grows at a 35-degree angle, look where the placement is of conceal. It's a relay program, and it's luxury consumption. We're not making the plant work hard to find the nutrition. When conceal came out, I said, this is going to be great for nitrogen, and it has been. That front tank on the planter, that's going to our conceal unit, okay? We've seen it in the spring. We see this almost every spring where we go nitrogen in a dual band fashion applied with conceal. You see the corn there on the right, that nice green corn. It's got dual placement of nitrogen on each side of it compared to the corn on the left, the yellow corn, the inconsistent corn, that's surface applied in. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the same rate of nitrogen. It's the same hybrid of corn. It's planted on the same day. All the difference is there is nitrogen placement. And it's this whole idea of luxury placement. Don't make the corn plant work hard, especially in cold, wet conditions. The best way I can describe nitrogen on the planter is years ago when we kind of switched from one and done applications to nitrogen, we went to side dressing. A lot of you folks probably do that. You do it because we get higher yield. But guess what? When we add nitrogen on the planter, we get the same type of yield response. But the important thing is I get both. I don't have to choose between one or the other. I get both of them. Here's 2020 data. We see the same thing. We get an increase from side dressing, but when I put nitrogen on the planter as well, yield keeps going. It's very common for us to see yield increase from nitrogen on the planter, and that's why it's a staple at the farm. Here's 2021 data. Every single year we see this. Yes, it's more work putting liquid on a planter. I'll be the first to say that. But we do it because we get higher yields. They say if you test something long enough, the cream will rise to the top, and I think at the PTI farm, in regards to nitrogen, the cream has risen. And it's a triple split program is what we affectionately call it. It's where we come in with a sprayer. You can see it on the screen there to the left. When we put our herbicide on, we're putting a little bit of 32% UAN as a carrier on. I come in and plant. I've got dual band conceal. Both of those programs represent 25%. So now I'm at 50% of my nitrogen, and then I come in and side dress just like I always have. This has been the safest program for us, and it's just simply making me the most money. If I look at profitability, this is a $50 winner. Ladies and gentlemen, at the farm, at the PTI farm, every day we talk about what can you do on your farm to make an extra $50 an acre. What can you do? Here, I'm using the same rate of fertilizer, same rate of nitrogen. It's not costing me anymore, but I'm getting higher yield and I'm making more profits. Now, I will be the first to admit, I never thought of things like potassium on the planter with conceal. I never thought of it. I was so focused on nitrogen. But I mentioned earlier, I'm still trying to fix things at the PTI farm. Fertility is one of them. We had really low fertility levels at the farm when we acquired it, and I'm trying to fix that. One of the things I'm trying to fix is K levels. Base saturation K levels. We're stuck at 2. Now, we've improved it a bunch to get to this level, but anybody heard of high prices on fertilizer like potash nowadays? It's kind of hard to build soil levels up with potash right now. And so what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we're still going to use that type of program, but we're going to reallocate a little bit, and we're going to bring in liquid potassium. This is a trial we're working with Nature's with a product called K-Fuse. This is where we're bringing potassium acetate in, not putting potash, muriate of potash on 0060. You know, we do have those applications in the fall in our strip till band, but then we're coming on the planter to supplement to address these low K levels. And these have been tremendous. This is another almost $50 an acre winner, folks, by being able to address those low fertility K levels. Cover crops, I think conceal, the dog in the hunt is cover crops. I know a lot of you folks are using cover crops to build soil health, and I think that's a great thing. We've introduced cover crop studies at the PTI Farm as part of 10-year trials. I've said to myself, Jason, you're not patient enough. So I said, okay, let's make 10-year studies, 10 years, and let's evaluate cover crops. Can they build soil health? But more importantly, the new crop I put in that cover crop like corn, can I feed it correctly, especially with nitrogen? Let's just talk about the cover crop. I'm using a 50% ryegrass, cereal ryegrass, and 50% barley in the fall. It comes up, and then I run my strip till rig right through it. I got dry fertilizer in that band. But then in the spring, I come right back in and plant into it. But the day I plant, I don't want to kill the cover crop. I want it to be around for a while. I want it to do some of those things, the nutrient sequestration. I don't want to kill it. So how am I going to put nitrogen to the new crop of corn I'm putting in here? Let's look at some yields. Let's look at just the cover crop. It didn't really cost me that much in yield. It was within a bushel of a non-cover crop program, very close in yield. I still had the cost of the cover crop though, and I lost about 30 bucks an acre in the end. $30 an acre is what I lost from cover crop. Now, we go back to the field and say, okay, how are we going to do nutrition on here to maintain profitability here? And so we come in with spray nozzles, spraying right over that strip to put nitrogen on. So that way we're not spraying the cover crop, dinging that crop. I want it to thrive, right? And then V2, V3, V4, somewhere in that growth stage timing, will come in and terminate. But we're using spray nozzles to spray right over that strip in comparison to coming in with my planter with dual band conceal, putting that 32% UA in, an inch and a half deep, 3 inches on each side of the furrow. And ladies and gentlemen, where we did that this past year, those were yield advantages of over 14 bushel. And here's the thing, you take that 14 bushel times the price of corn at $5 a bushel, and that's $72. $72. And here's one thing to note. Remember, just with the cover crop system alone, I didn't really lose yield, but I still had the cost of the program. You remember what I lost per acre? Almost $30. If I don't do my fertility program right, planting that new crop of corn into the cover crop, you can add this $72 in as a loss as well, and now you're at a $100 loss first year. This is what we're going to be analyzing for the next 10 years, okay? Looking at the economics of this. And also measuring soil health like we mentioned. We need to build soil health battling through this. I know you can't see this slide. I know you can't read it, and that's okay. I'm going to show you how to get this data here in a little bit. But these are all the conceal programs that we worked with at the PTI Farm. Lots of different companies, lots of different products. We're picking up a little over 8 bushel to the acre on average with ROIs, positive ROIs of over $30. There's profits to be had with this system. That's why we're using it at the PTI Farm and talking about it every day. Now, the blue line's on the screen. That's conceal. That's what we just got done talking about. What about the orange lines? This is where we're going in furrow, especially with phosphorus, and we're using products like FurrowJet to make that application for us. This is a great time to talk about reallocation, okay? So with reallocation of fertilizer, it comes down to this. We're going to soil test. We're going to find out where our fertility levels are at. We're going to establish a yield goal. How much fertilizer do we need to apply? And what's your next step? You need to figure out how many times you're going to apply fertilizer. You see, a lot of times growers will just call their custom retailer, custom applicator, and say, go out and put my dry fertilizer on, go spread it. All your fertilizer's done. But wait a minute, you're going to come in the spring and you're going to say, Jason, I put FurrowJet on the planter. I'm going to put starter fertilizer on. How many gallons should I put on? What am I going to tell you if you've already put all your dry fertilizer on? 0. You've already put your nutrition on. You've already put it on, and you've already spent all your dollars. That's what reallocation is. If you know you're going to be coming in on the planter with the starter fertilizer program, we're going to back our dry program down in the fall. Just reduce it. And what I do at the farm is I just trade dollars. $30 is my reallocation program. So what it comes down to is my starter program on the planter is free. It's not costing me any more money than a typical 100% full dry program. It's zero cost insurance, and it works really well. There's the 2 tanks on the back of my planter. 1 tank and pump is for FurrowJet center, right next to the seed. And I've got another tank and pump that's going to go to FurrowJet wings. Here I can dictate the product, where it's going, close to the seed or whether it's going further away from the seed. I'll start off with 1034-0. It's the most common starter fertilizer around the world. Everybody knows about 1034-0. It's probably not my particular favorite, but we'll start with it. Some folks say with FurrowJet, well, you can put pretty high amounts, rate per acre on with FurrowJet, right? Yeah. We're running up to 14 gallon to the acre with 1034-0. Does it cause crop injury? No. You look at the data here. Yes, we got the highest yield at 8 gallon to the acre, but then after that, we didn't get a yield on it, but we didn't have any crop injury to go with those higher rates. That's one of the benefits of FurrowJet with 3 placements of product. In the end, 6 gallon to the acre actually did us the best. But it wasn't crop injury that lost us the money on the higher rates. It was just no yield response at all. Let's look at other programs. Nature's a 1018-4. This is a product called Impulse. Been a pretty consistent program for us at the farm. You can see these consistent yields here. More importantly, look at the ROI. Guys, with our reallocation program and our starter program on the planter, it is common to see $50 winners. And that's the whole goal of this program. And I will say, in 2021, it was easy to get it. Here's Marco Fertilizer, another local company we work with, about an hour south of the PTI farm. Look at some of these yield responses. Reallocating, lowering our dry fertilizer, bringing liquid starter fertilizer on in the planter. Those are some nice yield gains. Even better yet, look at the ROI of this. $50 to $60 per acre winners. That's what it's about. Stoller USA. It's a new company for us at the PTI farm. I've never tested their products before. And I got looking at their product guide, and I said, you got a lot of fertilizers that are meant to be sprayed foliar, especially early seedling corn, V2 corn, much smaller than the corn you see here on the stage. And I said, let me take that fertilizer and let me put it through FurrowJet. FurrowJet center right next to the seed. And so it's a fortified stimulate with a humic acid. And we put this in FurrowJet and we saw some excellent results, much better than what we saw with foliar rates. 13 bushel yield gains here times the price of corn, less the cost of the product, and we've got another $50 winner. More programs. Anderson's has been a good program at the farm as far as good product and good results. Here you can see some of the dollar values here with Anderson's nutritional program, AgroLiquid, the list goes on and on. My point is, if we reallocate, we use a liquid banding starter fertilizer program, we have seen some easy yield results, we really have. Here's all the FurrowJet programs, and again, I know you can't read this. I'm going to show you how to get this data here in a minute. But my point is, we test a lot of programs, and we've seen some nice response. Average 8 bushel and almost $30 an acre net. Everything is a relay. And when you come to the PTI farm, we show you this. We set it up as a foundation. We're going to start with our strip till, dry fertilizer in the bottom of our band. That's the first pass that we make in the first band. Then we come in with the planter, FurrowJet center, sugars, biologicals. Then we relay again to FurrowJet wings. This is where we're bringing in the phosphorus, the zinc. And then we relay again to conceal, the nitrogen, the potassium, the sulfur, the boron. We just keep kind of spoon feeding along. As that root system starts to develop and starts to mature, we've got a new band of fertilizer to keep that crop going. We call it the 5-point touch at the farm. It's actually 6 when you count the dry fertilizer, but everything is a band in its efficiency, and it's really done a nice job of setting the foundation up to drive yield. Let's talk a little bit about banding versus broadcast. I mean, that's what we're doing with this 5-point liquid touch on the planter. We've got some trials at the farm that are, again, set up as a 10-year study, banding versus broadcast. I come in with my strip till bar to band my dry fertilizer, DAP and potash, but then we do what I call slinging it, calling a custom applicator in and just say, here, just spread it right on top of the ground, like a lot of folks do. That's the status quo. A year ago when we did this, we saw some pretty nice yield responses from that banding of fertilizer, over 17 bushel to the acre. Take that times the price of corn, and that was another $50 winner for us. This year, not quite as good of results, but we're still positive at $30 per acre. Still shows the effectiveness of banding versus broadcasting. You see, with broadcasting, we're fertilizing every square inch of the soil. And the problem with that is we don't have a root next to every square inch of the soil. That's the banding advantages we get. Now, some folks have come to us and said, okay, you're doing this banding versus broadcast. Given the high price of fertilizer today, do you think you can use less fertilizer if you band? That's been a very popular question, and I get it due to the high prices of fertilizer. So in this 10-year study, we set it up and said, okay, we're going to soil test. We're going to find out how much fertilizer we need to put on. We're going to band it. We're going to broadcast it, 100% rates. And then I'm going to reduce my rates by 25%. So that 100% goes to 75. I'm going to reduce it again. I'm going to go to 50. I'm going to reduce it again and go to 25. And I'll even shut the gate off and go to 0. And I'm going to do this for the next 10 years. And we're going to understand what happens to soil test levels. We're going to understand what happens to yield. We're going to understand what happens to profitability. Let's show you year 1. I want to walk through this graph with you. We're going to start in the lower left corner, the two darker blue bars. 100% band is the first one, lower left corner, compared to it 100% broadcast. And I just want you to look who wins. And this is ROI, net return. Band beats the broadcast. We're 1 for 1 with band. That's at 100% rates. Now let's reduce it by 25% and go to 75. That's the lighter blue bars. The first one is the band. The second one is the broadcast. Who wins? Band wins again, 2 for 2. Let's go to 50% rates of fertilizer. Can you reduce your fertilizer rates in half? Look at these numbers. This is the orange bars. Band beats the broadcast again. We're 3 for 3. Finally, we go to 25%. The green bars, guess what? The band beat the broadcast again. Very few times in our studies does the thing we're trying to test win every single time. That just doesn't happen very much. But I get it with the banding versus broadcast. We're putting that fertilizer right underneath the row, and it's efficiency, luxury consumption. This slide is the one I like the best because the orange is the status quo. That's you as a grower calling your ag retailer, spread my dry fertilizer right on top of the ground. And then we come in with our banding with the strip till, and we compare rates. The gray bar is going to be 75%. It actually beat the 100% rates. Reducing fertilizer by 25% actually made me more money. It gets better. I reduced rates by 50%, and it made me more money than 100% broadcast. Now, this is year 1. Can I do it for 9 more years? That's what we're going to find out. Now, where I got into trouble with this is where I reduced too much. I went down to 25% fertilizer, and it cost me, and the 0% rate cost me as well. We're going to continue to look at this in both corn and soybeans. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about soybeans. We spent a lot of time talking about corn today. I will tell you, 2021 was a roller coaster ride when it came to soybeans. We planted our high yield, our high management soybeans at the farm. Everybody came by the farm and they said, what'd you do to those soybeans? They look pretty good. And I said, well, we got a long ways to go yet. Don't count your chickens yet. We got to about June. Folks started coming in for early field days. They said, what'd you do to those beans? They look pretty good. I said, well, don't hold your breath yet. We got a long ways to go. All of a sudden we get into July, the end of July, full force field days. Folks were saying, Jason, what did you do to your beans? They look terrible. We kept feeding and feeding our soybeans, and they got a little taller and a little taller and a little taller. How tall should your soybeans be? They were taller than me. Now, I'm not the tallest individual in the world, but it showed you how tall these beans got, and that's why everybody was saying, well, your beans look terrible. They're starting to fall over a little bit. All along, though, I was smiling a little bit because I knew something was happening with these soybeans. And I want to show you a picture here. See these red circles? I know it's hard to see out here in the audience, but I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go in and pick those pods right off and hold them in my hand and show you a picture of it. What do you see there? Can you count the beans in those pods? 4 bean pods. I'll ask you folks, how many 4 bean pods should you have in your fields at home? And don't say as many as possible. That's cheating. You want a lot of them, but how many do you have? Have you ever gone out and counted? I heard a lot this year. Well, how many 5 bean pods do you have? Well, let's start with the 4s first. Let's figure out what we've got here. And I'll tell you, there was a bunch of them. Irrigation, I mean, I think this was part of it. I will tell you, high-yielding beans, I can get at least 20 to 25 bushel yield increase with irrigating soybeans. But there's more than that. We got these 4 bean pods because of some of the management that we're doing, especially the fertility management. We drove bean yields. This is the highest bean yield I've got at the PTI farm. Yeah, in the 4 years we've been there, this is the high yield. We went to 110. And I actually kind of thought maybe they'd be a little better, but they were 110. But if you look at the progression of yield here, in the left corner you see our control. That's irrigated. Yes, it's got a foliar program, but we look at plant nutrition, FurrowJet center, FurrowJet wings, and conceal, and we keep driving yield higher, and that's what it took to get to our 110, our highest yield. This is our protocol, and again, I know you probably can't see this on the screen, but I'm going to show you how to get this. I put this up here because it's what we did. And right, wrong, or indifferent, it's what we did, and I think everybody ought to know it. We're open and honest and say, here's what we did. In every application we make, we charge ourselves because that's what's going to happen on your farm. We've got to look at yield, we've got to look at profitability. If something doesn't win here, we're going to pull it out and we're going to replace it with something else. Okay? So, we can look at, high management, looking at non-irrigated, just foliar programs, and that gave us some pretty nice yield. But when we keep driving, especially with this at-plant nutrition, setting the foundation for beans, FurrowJet, and conceal, that's what I think got the thing done. And then just continuing to feed, spoon feeding along, kept driving these yields. Yes, I got them a little tall than what I would like, but those 4 bean pods were incredible. We harvested these beans, and I said, guys, did you see the size of these soybeans? I said, we ought to test and find out how big these soybeans are. And so we did that. We brought in seed counters. And this seed counter is set up to count 2,000 seeds. An extra 2 seeds fell into the cup. But do you know that these 2,002 seeds weighed exactly a pound? Absolutely huge soybeans. 110 bushel beans. On average, we were looking at 2,084 seeds per pound. Just goes to show you big beans mean big yield. And that's what we're trying to achieve. We noticed it this year on the farm, but it's that high management that got us there. All right, how do you stay connected? How do you get more data? I know we went through a lot of trials here, and it was just a portion of the farm of the 160-some trials we had this year. There's a couple things you can do. Inside PTI, you can go to Inside PTI and sign up to get an inside look at the PTI farm. If you do this, if you'll sign up at Inside PTI, give us your first name and your email address, we're going to send you videos from the PTI farm all summer long. We're going to show you what we're working on, and you can read them while you're in your lazy boy at home. Okay? InsidePTI.com. But it's kind of an inside look at the farm. We just got done creating our research summary. I've got it right here. I'm going to go over and grab this thing. This is our newest publication. We just released this to our precision planting dealers yesterday. Almost 260 pages. It's 250 and change, I think, of agronomy trial, 160 of them. And this is available all from the PTI farm. If you want this data, contact your local precision planting premier dealer, and they can get you taken care of with this data. Talk to them. Would encourage you to go visit them and talk with them about some of the results. Okay? I'd like to give you a personal invitation to the PTI farm for this coming summer. I know it's July and August, but it'll be here faster than you know it. But I'd like to invite you now to the PTI farm. And we'll have sessions similar to what we've done in the past, talking about that furrow creation that I mentioned earlier, the sandbox with running equipment out there. We'll continue to do that, and then we'll have our agronomy tour where I'd love to take you out and show you some of the things that we're working on. Some of the new things that we have. I want to show you our new storage and drying system. This is, I just took this picture 2 days ago. We're working on a 4th bin right now. We're putting a leg up in a dryer, and we're going to incorporate the agronomy, and look at the costs and look at the structure of drying our own grain agronomically, invisible yield loss, things like that. I can't wait for you not only to come see this technology at the farm, but what we're doing with it agronomically. And think about this. Think about all the new technology you heard about today. You'll be able to hear more about that at the PTI farm. So I would encourage you to come out and visit us this July and August at the PTI farm. Lastly, we're going to go on the road. We enjoy talking with farmers, and so over the next 5 weeks, starting next week, we're going to go on the road, and we're just going to talk agronomy. 5 weeks, 21 locations. Here's the website you can go to see the locations. I'll show you a little glimpse of it here. Here's all the locations we're going to. Hopefully there's one near you. But these are going to be meetings that we set up to talk only about profitability. What are the top 10 things that made us the most money at the PTI farm this past year, and what are the 10 things that cost us the most money? That's what these meetings are going to be focused on. Week number 1, we're going to start off in Ohio and Indiana, and I won't go through all the dates, but I just want to quickly show you where we're going because I'm hoping there's one near you. Week 2, we're going to be in South Dakota. They say it's warm in South Dakota this time of year. What do you guys think? I don't know. Week 3, Iowa and Nebraska. You can see the locations we're going to there. Week 4, we'll be in Illinois at the PTI farm, Indiana, and Kentucky on our way down to the Louisville Farm Show. And then week 5, we're going to finish up going to the north in Wisconsin, and then the very last day will be at PTI. We're actually at the PTI farm for 3 meetings on this winter tour. So hopefully you guys will attend that and would love to talk with you about farm profitability. We'll also talk about believing in being better. That's what all this is about, challenging the status quo. What can we do on our farm to be better? So thank you for your time. I love talking with you about results from the PTI farm. I'm going to have Taryn Johnson come up, and she's going to close the session for you today. In the meantime, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. We're really excited about this year's PTI Winter Tour. We hope you can join us. On behalf of the entire Precision Planting team, thank you so much for spending your day with us. We've had a great day. We hope you have too. You know, throughout today's sessions, you might have picked up on an underlying theme. And that theme is you have the opportunity to be better by believing in better. We've shown you a lot today that can help you improve, and our challenge to you is to implement and apply some of the things you've learned today into your own operation. Believe in better. As you leave today, be sure to pick yourself up a bucket and one of our new product catalogs, and our team of dealers and employees will stick around to answer any questions that you might have. We wish you a safe and prosperous 2022. For those of you joining us here in Tremont, you'll exit through the double doors highlighted in blue. Thank you so much again for joining us at Winter Conference 2022. Have a safe trip home.